The Democrat Party is facing a socialist crisis, but it goes even further than that. The Republicans will also be facing this socialist crisis if we don't nip it in the bud in terms of our messaging. And this is where you see being discussed over on the All In podcast. But before we begin, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
We need to fix this broken generational compact. This was the first moment in years where I have now become sympathetic to this idea of student loan forgiveness. I was never sympathetic to this idea. I am sympathetic to it now.
Why are you sympathetic to it, Chamath?
Because I think that we should have fixed this problem a long time ago. We should have not allowed these loans to be underwritten the way that it was for so long, not allowed all of these effective subsidies to pervert the free market's ability to tell people that some of these degrees were not worth their time. We have Palantir today saying that they're not going to hire from college anymore.
Let me build on that. Okay, so look, I just on the narrow loan forgiveness point. So I actually agree that maybe loans should be forgiven if you get a total overhaul of the system. What you don't want to do is acknowledge that all the loans are bad and they need to be written off and then continue making them. And that was the problem with, I think, the Biden loan forgiveness program is he's going to write off trillions of dollars of loans while keep funding the system without any reform. So let's talk about a big reform package where we completely re-underwrite how we do this. And maybe some loan forgiveness can be part of that so that we don't have all these kids graduating who are basically socialists because they're so deeply in debt, they're never going to own capital in the system. By the way, JCal, maybe the fact that all of these millennials are socialists might have something to do with the fact they're unemployable. Who the hell wants to hire young Lenin 2.0 communist revolutionary to be in their company if they don't believe in capitalism? How are they going to work their way up through a capitalist system?
That's your best point so far. Yeah, it's your best point.
Just saying.
Best point so far.
Maybe it has something to do with the fact that all these kids are socialists and junior communist revolutionaries rather than blaming our favorite scapegoat, AI. Okay, so anyway, that's that point. Now, in terms of Mamdani getting elected, you got to remember, New York City is like 80-20 Democrat, and he won very narrowly. It was like 50.4% of the vote. So this was not some overwhelming victory. It was a narrow victory. He squeaked by, but he did win, and it's because the base of the Democratic Party is energized by this socialist ideology. So what we saw in this election, I think, was blue cities and states getting bluer, meaning moving to the left. And that is a problem that is a little bit scary because historically, in this country, the politics was played between the 40-yard lines. You didn't have one of the parties being fundamentally a revolutionary party. And it does seem like the Democrat Party is gradually becoming a party of Mamdanis and Katie Porters and genuine socialist revolutionaries. And, you know, if we ultimately lose, then the country's going to be in for a big shock. But I don't think that's going to happen, though. But this is why I think we should take very seriously the idea of, if the shutdown continues, end the filibuster, because while the country has empowered Republicans with all the different parts of the federal government, we have to deliver genuine results now. Otherwise, these socialists are going to take over in 3 years.
I think the most important statistic, since it's my hometown, I think a lot of New Yorkers don't fall for this kind of bullshit that he's spinning. And if you look at the chart, if you could pull up the chart, Nick, of people who were born in New York as opposed to people who've been there. So if you look at that bottom one, I was born in New York City. 38% of those people went for Mamdani, and the other 60% went for the other two candidates. But if you were there for less than 5 years or less than 10 years, 78 and 85% chance you voted for him. The people who were not born there, they fell for it. This guy's a charlatan. Nothing he says he's going to do is going to happen. It's going to be total, complete, utter chaos, Brad.
I think it's a fundamental fight for the soul of America going on right now. This goes to the very basic premise of the American dream. Is there economic mobility in America? But I think Republicans have to get real about this. I think they have. The president ran on a Main Street agenda. He passed the Invest America Act. I think he absolutely gets what's at stake. 70% of people feel left out and left behind. They feel like the system is rigged against them. And when you have somebody like Mamdani who comes along and promises everything under the sun for free, that he can solve all of these problems, I think it's very enticing for young people who are frustrated.
They also don't do any diligence because he can't deliver on any of these promises. Right. He's not allowed to as mayor. And he takes the state assembly.
Chamath and I were with Vivek Ramaswamy last night, and Vivek tweeted about this yesterday. Republicans have to talk about the issue of affordability, right? And I think they really have a good game plan around the Main Street agenda for affordability. Remember, no tax on tips. That doesn't help rich people, helps people who are feeling left out. No tax on overtime helps people who are feeling left out. But that's getting drowned out, Jason, as you pointed out, in the moment by people who feel like their grocery bills are going up, the cost of rent is going up, et cetera. So that is going to be the struggle over the course of the next 12 months. That is the battling narrative. And in the Democratic Party, clearly, this was a fight within the Democratic Party between Andrew Cuomo and Mamdani, and the centrist Democrats are losing to, kind of the more socialist wing of the party. And I think on a national level, folks in Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin, they don't fall for that. They believe in the American dream. They believe in economic mobility. They may be frustrated by affordability, but they're not ready to burn down capitalism in the way that Mamdani is suggesting.
Those voters may not want to burn down capitalism, but that's what they're going to get because we have a two-party system in America. And if the Democrats go socialist and then they get the trifecta and they get rid of the filibuster, that's what they're going to impose.
I think the person who wins 2028 is the person who puts as much energy into, say, building data centers or ballrooms as puts into building affordable housing. That will be a great thing for somebody running in 2028 to champion.
This is what we're seeing across the country is that the so-called centrist Democrats, the mansions, the cinemas, they're being driven out of the party, and all the energy is with this base that's turned socialist. And so, Brad, this is where I get very nervous. Yeah, it's true. Like the American heartland does not want a communist revolution. But if these guys get power, then that's what we're in for. So it's pretty scary.
Build affordable homes, and this will end.
How ironic is it that San Francisco ran this experiment? We have people, feces in the street. We had people dying in the street, et cetera. Daniel Lurie, a centrist Democrat, gets elected in San Francisco, now is putting the city back on a right trajectory, and New York is heading in the exact opposite direction. That's going to be a really interesting A/B test for America, because I think San Francisco is trending in the right direction. I think that, to the extent that Mamdani can do any of these things he's talking about, he's going to put New York City on a very, very bad track.
In addition to all the economic redistribution, the idea the government's going to run grocery stores and things like that, he's also said he's going to abolish all the gifted programs in New York City schools, and he wants to close Rikers, and he believes in cashless
I think that's
bail.
the plot of the second Dark Knight movie by Christopher Nolan. Is when they open Arkham Asylum and like the Joker and the Sandman come out.
So this, of course, is the important point being brought in by the All-In crew. Why are the youth turning left? Why are they turning socialist? And why, of course, are they taking over the Democrat Party and turning that socialist? And, of course, it all comes down to affordability. This is a very big topic. Now, if you listen to Jason Calacanis, he would say it's all because of affordable housing. But here's the problem. Places like California, places like New York, make building new affordable housing pretty much non-existent because of their taxes, their regulations, and their rent controls. So what's going to happen is that these blue cities and states are going to keep getting bluer and bluer and bluer because the youth, the younger generation, are going to find it harder and harder to realize that American dream through capitalism, right? They're basically priced out of the market. However, the people who actually want to achieve that dream are going to leave. So we are going to be facing this further and further divided America, all right? The red places are going to get redder. The blue places are going to get bluer. And unfortunately, they're going to get more and more socialist. And this, of course, is going to bring us back to the first point that Chamath made, okay? He says, yeah, I think we should really go ahead and do student loan debt forgiveness, which of course is an awful idea. And this is where you actually have David Sachs chiming in and saying, well, if you want to do this whole student loan overhaul business, then yeah, go ahead and do that. But we have to, of course, get rid of the underlying problem. And to me personally, what's the underlying problem? It's the government underwriting the student loan business, right? They're the ones essentially giving out the student loans. So the government should be not involved with this at all. Okay, give it back to the private sector. And then, of course, you could actually lower interest rates. And if students had to, they could declare bankruptcy and that student loan would be wiped out. Okay, make it part of the usual system. But what I also found rather interesting was when David Sachs mentions that, yeah, places like Palantir and other tech startups, etc., they're not going to hire from colleges anymore. Because guess what? A lot of those students come out of those colleges being indoctrinated into the whole socialist ideology. Okay, and why would you want to hire a socialist for your company? company, what are they going to bring to the table, right? Is it going to be that hard work ethic, that idea that if I do more, I get more? Yeah, that's pretty antithetical to the whole socialist program, isn't it? But I do want to point out that I understand why the young people are trending in this direction, right? We get back to the idea of affordability, all right? So there's two things going on. First, we don't teach the actual history of socialism and communism in this country. The failings of the systems is not widely known to the younger generation, okay? So we got to get on top of that. Second, it's easy to see these young people getting very disenfranchised when all they're seeing basically is not real capitalism, but they're seeing big examples of crony capitalism, right? Case in point, the bailouts. When you have all of these failing banks and systems and universities, and how do they function? Oh, with tax dollars, right? They make really bad decisions, and then what does the government turn around and do? It bails them out, as opposed to letting them go bankrupt, as opposed to letting them get bought out by other companies that could make it more successful and profitable, okay? So all kids are seeing right now is the lack of affordability, and of course, capitalism being corrupted. So what are they going to turn to? Oh, socialism, because they've been indoctrinated in that vein, but also they haven't seen capitalism work for them. All right. But this comes back to the actual triumphs of the Trump administration. When we talk about no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, those are things that actually really impact the working class, the middle class. So the party that really cares is the Republican Party, because we want you to keep more of your own money as opposed to just giving you handouts that cost somebody else money. All right. One frame of mind is going to be very useful for you in your future life and endeavors. The other frame of mind is going to make you a victim perpetually for the rest of your life. And this, of course, is where the Republicans have to start getting really, really serious. Yes, we have to tackle these problems of affordability, right? We have to tackle inflation. We have to tackle food prices, etc. Now, so far, Donald Trump has actually done really good on the energy costs, right? Those are going down, and they're actually down lower now than when Donald Trump took office, and it will eventually have a trickle-down effect, but we have to do everything in our power to make sure that moves quickly, especially before the 2026 election cycle. And if we don't show some real progress on those issues, then of course we're going to have some real hard times ahead of us. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me. Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description, where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.